get started here. So welcome on a kind of rainy day where I thought there'd be more people here, I'll be honest with you, but they kind of oversaturated the market with me. I don't know if you keep up with Half Moon or know these seminars, but they have me in Livonia doing this, Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and here in Toledo, so within like a month. So that's probably why we have a smaller crowd today. But anyway, welcome for being here. First of all, how many of you have been to a Half Moon seminar before? How many of you have been to a Half Moon seminar of me before? Few people. Okay, great. A large percentage of today. Great. But yeah, just so to explain, it sounds like a lot of you have been to Half Moon. Half Moon is basically a continuing education program throughout the United States where they get paid volunteers to help out and try to go through these seminar topics. It's kind of the equivalent of engineering open mic night, where they come up with a topic. Thank you. And I come up with these slides. So everything you see today is my take on an outline that I was given and an outline you paid for when you signed up for this course. It's been interesting with this ASC 716 stuff, because I thought that we'd have huge crowds wanting to know new stuff, and it's actually, I think, kind of been the opposite, where people are kind of like, well, that's not the adopted code, so I'm not going to bother to show up. So I've had smaller than lesser numbers. For example, here in Ohio has always been good to me with the seminars. I had 91 people for a wood design seminar I did, and that was a month before the continuing education hours were due for Ohio. So of course it was a very large crowd. The first order, I had a gavel and I said, the first order of people who have forgotten to renew their licenses in time, so getting their hours. So these things come and go. So I've been doing this about 4 years, but I've done about 40 of these full day things. So if you've been through it, if those who have been to my seminar before, thank you for showing back up again, because that's always the biggest compliment, is that if you see my name and you're like, well, that guy didn't suck, I'm going to go back and see another one. So this is my slide where essentially I call it, well, I don't have all the gray hair, some of my counterparts, but I do pretty well. I'm about the halfway point in my career, have done a whole bunch of stuff. Local to the Midwest here. I come from Chicago. I drove in all that rain last night, which is kind of crazy on the tollway. Structural engineer by trade. I do some roof consulting as well. I've actually still going down there about the last year after the hurricanes, doing that work. So I can say one of those things that you kind of brag or not brag about, but I was at the landing points of both Irma and Harvey here in the United States. I was out at Harvey 3 days after that hit and saw all that stuff going on down there, and then of course going down to Florida. So ASC is very important to me, not only from the design side, but analyzing consultant reports where they're being a little exaggerating of the loads. You have to be accurate and understand what's going on. And I've shown this slide many times. This is Joplin, Missouri, a week after that happened. So of course wind is a thing that's very passionate to me. I've seen a lot of devastation. I've been through 24 tornadoes, actually, post-damage assessments. Some of those are small, and then some of the bigger ones like this. Joplin, of course, was pretty catastrophic for U.S. history of tornado, but it has since then, they've done a lot of research, a lot of background to get better at what we do to track these and to warn people about when they're coming. So what are we talking about today? Well, you're going to get what you paid for. It's not going to be the most exciting stuff. I will warn you of that. There'll be some math. I do all of it for you in the book, but we're going to go through ASC 716. We're going to go through the whole thing. So the way I've done it is that I have a little new thing, or I'll note where it's the new stuff, or we'll talk about that, but it's really just going to be the whole darn book, because I don't like doing the significant changes to seminars, because then that skips if a lot of people aren't familiar with it. Remember, Half Moon, you needed nothing to get in the door but paying some money, right? There's no prerequisites today. I don't know what your levels of background are. I'm 43, so I'm kind of at this point where I'm not doing a lot of the grunt engineering anymore. So a lot of people that come to these are managers or people. So we're just going to go through all the math and then obviously focus on the new stuff. The thing with ASC 716, and I'll warn you throughout the day, it's not adopted anywhere. I even got a nice lecture from Ohio on this thing that we'll talk about. But so a lot of these things I'm going to show you, they haven't really been in practice. So the little tweaks and nuances and things that code officials and engineers will pick up those really haven't been done yet. So it's pretty new, this book, and even the references you see out there are new. You know, any engineer that's like myself talking about this today really hasn't done it in practice because it's not adopted anywhere. So like I said, the outline, we're going to talk about all the things that are in the outline. Everything's prepared by me today, all the slides. So if you don't like today, it's my fault. It's not Half Moon's fault, is to make that clear. You know, obviously the load topics is what we're talking about, not really design or anything like that, because it's just really this book itself. And then, you know, I'm not really a disclaimer person. I don't have a lot of the fine print type stuff, but you always need the full code before getting it, so I've passed it around for the low price of $250. ASC 716 can be yours, and we'll show the thickness of it compared to the older editions and how it keeps getting thicker and thicker. Questions and discussions are encouraged. Again, we have a very small group today. The third smallest group I've ever given for Half Moon, actually, here today. My record low was 7. I drove all the way to Des Moines, Iowa, for 7 people, and I called Half Moon, like, you really want to do this today? Like, kind of like, you know, one of those things, oh boy, the rain and the time. But no, they'll roll with it for one person even, because they want to keep that commitment. And then, so if you have any questions, discussions, raise your hands. Let's talk about this stuff. You know, we have a full day scheduled. You know, I don't really have a lot of filler. You know, I don't stop an hour early waiting for you to ask questions, but we can fill in. We can get the questions in as you need them. And then the comment form are great evaluation tools for myself